This week's show brought to you by Lonzo. Welcome back to another Boxscore Geeks show. I'm your host, Ray Alvarez, also known as Nerd Numbers, I think everywhere on the internet at this point. And we have a very special guest tonight, Chris Yeh, the penultimate Lakers fan, which I think is probably the fourth or fifth or sixth most impressive thing on your resume, Chris. I think you just finished another book. I'll let you get whatever stuff you explicitly want to plug at the end of the show, but just for those of you who don't know, read The Alliance. Every NBA GM, front office owner, read The Alliance, please. So Chris is author of the New York Times bestseller, The Alliance, with Reid Hoffman and Ben Casnocha?
Yes. No, it's Casnocha.
Casnocha. All right.
Almost.
So close. This close. Not as bad.
To be fair, it's a very rare name.
All right. So, but best-selling author of the Alliance, veteran of Silicon Valley and lover of all things Lakers. So Chris Yeh, you can find on Twitter as Chris Yeh. But hey, Chris.
Hey.
Well, I think it was. I didn't realize this, Chris. Not to be mean, but I guess the Lakers are doing kind of hot right now, so the timing intersected really well for you to be on the show. There was going to be plenty to discuss regardless, but I'm glad the timing worked out that way. And then, as always, we are produced by our own voice of God, man of many hats. I forgot a nickname, Brian, but Brian Foster.
No. You should add hardest working man in show business.
All right. Now,
well, I'll have to say, Dre, you left off my favorite attribute.
Voice of God.
Is massive Josh Hart fan. That's my favorite thing about you, Chris.
All right.
I love Josh Hart.
So we have I Heart Josh Hart would have been a good shirt. So we'll talk about this in a second. So anyway, we've got a couple topics to discuss. We might bring up tanking again just to make it a streak. I might find an excuse to talk King of Kong again just because I really enjoyed that. But we're just going to be I'm planning on this just being a Lakers, and then as Chris pointed out, blends nicely into a rookie class show. We have plenty to talk there. If you see me start glancing to the screen and talking other stuff, it means we fell off the tightrope, but I don't think that's going to happen because between the three of us, easy enough to talk about the Lakers for more than an hour. So anyway, the biggest thing, I've already said this is locked in. I don't normally name shows ahead of time, which is funny because then it becomes a game between Brian and me if Brian has a good show title. And if he doesn't, I have to think of a show title, and I feel really bad.
Better be good then, Dre. It better be good.
So this one is, and this is locked in. So if we don't discuss it, I'll feel bad. There was a few weeks ago where I had a show title that I locked in, and we talked it for about 2 minutes. But show title is, should Lonzo Ball win Rookie of the Year over Donovan Mitchell? So I'm definitely poking. This was a very interesting week. So what ended up happening is I made a comment about Donovan Mitchell. The simple point, he is the epitome of yay points. I'm amazed that 8 years after Ethan Strauss came up with the topic that he is still there. Donovan Mitchell shoots about 16 shots a game, and he averages about 20 points a game on about 1% below league average true shooting. Now, that wouldn't strictly be a problem because we're going to get to Lonzo Ball, too, who's not a great shooter, maybe. And the thing is, he doesn't do anything else. One of our friends of the show, Arturo Galetti, American Numbers on Twitter, was like, well, he doesn't assist or rebound, and his steals are only okay, but beyond that, he's fine. You're like, so he doesn't do anything, and the one thing he's good at, he's not that great at. But so Lonzo Ball definitely looks like a better rookie, and Chris, you and I are going to be able to talk about it. What I've got to ask about, because this looks really good, Lonzo Ball, was out for 5-10 games injured. It looks like according to
more than that. So Lonzo's played 41 games, and the Lakers have played 63. So he was out for a considerable period.
Okay, so much longer than that. But the key point is in the last 5 or 6 games. So since he's been back, yeah, you're right. He was inactive from game 32, came back at game 38. Left at game 42, came back at game 58. Okay, so he's been out about 16 games. And then he did didn't play a back-to-back. But he has played the last 5 games, and hopefully he'll be suiting up tonight. And he is just, in the last 5 games that he has played, has just looked remarkably better. If we look at his rookie numbers, he's above average as he's above average as an NBA player, which means he's significantly above average as a rookie. But I would argue, I'll use the dreaded small sample size, but there's a nice bridge right there. Is a lack of games that he hasn't played, and a seeming difference. We'll talk. Brian has done this before, but have you noticed a noticeable difference? We'll use the dreaded word, the eye test, on Lonzo Ball in the last 5 or 6 games.
So there absolutely is a noticeable difference. The biggest change with Lonzo Ball, of course, is just the three-point shooting. So since he came back from injury, he's been shooting something like 50 or 60% from three. Since the start of the year, he's been shooting something like 44, 45% from three. And what you can see with Lonzo is that he's not hesitating to shoot his shot. So when the ball comes to him, and again, the Lakers have very good ball movement. If you watch them, it looks beautiful at times, especially when Lonzo's on the court. When the ball comes to him and he's open, he shoots it. And that's the key. Before, his shooting had been so atrociously bad that he had started to hesitate shooting. And I think that one of the things that a lot of Lakers podcasters and bloggers have noted is that when he was having his shooting struggles, he shot noticeably better on the road than at home. So it seems like it might have been a mental thing because the crowd was so eager to cheer him making a basket that I think it put pressure on him.
Oh, I'm definitely going to have to forward that comment along to other big fan of the show, Art Rondeau, who talks a lot about the psychology of where your mind is at. And actually, I got to shout out just a passing comment at Sloan that Art made to me, which was this idea of benching players for bad play and saying you actually want to avoid doing that because it's funny to like what you're saying, Chris, is if you bench a player right after they make a bad play, which you've inadvertently done using behavioral psychology, is you've now associated bad performance with getting benched, which means if a player is going to play, they're going to be more tentative. They're not going to want to make a bad play because they've now got that association. So Art would even say sometimes he'd leave a player out longer after a bad play, just let them finish their shift. Or if their shift was up and they just missed a shot or did a turnover, when they got into the bench, he'd slap them on the back and say, hey, your rotation was up. Wasn't for that play. Don't worry about it. I got full confidence in you. So same thing here, where it sounds like with Lonzo, he was starting to associate bad shot with letting people down. And if that caused him to, so whatever he's done, looks like it's been fantastic. And what I will say, I'm a little bummed, but not truly when I look into it, is he was looking great, and then he has that stinker against the Portland Trail Blazers. I did look it up. The Portland Trail Blazers are top 5 in the NBA at D. They did a fantastic. They locked down everybody on the Lakers except for Julius Randle, who did amazing. But it seems like that was fine. Right. But then also Lonzo in that game, to your exact same point, he went 3 for 9, but he went 3 for 7 from 3. He just couldn't hit they kept him out of the paint clearly.
Exactly. And one of the things that's interesting, again, Lonzo has actually in many ways exceeded my expectations for him this season, despite the poor shooting at the beginning of the season. The thing that I think has been most gratifying for Lakers fans is the fact that he turns out to be a pretty good defender. And I think that a lot of people coming into the NBA draft said, oh, my God, what are we going to do? Lonzo was a bad defender. I'm like, did you guys watch the UCLA tape? Yeah, UCLA was a bad team, but he was the best defender on the bad team. Now, that's not a very high bar. But since coming to the NBA, the Lakers are noticeably better on defense when he's out there because they can play their switch everything defense. And at the end of the game, he was the only one who was able to force Dame Lillard to miss any shots. Unfortunately for the Lakers, the Blazers just kept getting offensive rebound after offensive rebound.
Well, and Lillard, I mean, this is one of the more amusing ones because we're definitely gonna compare to Mitchell. So our point is, I'm gonna fire all the shots at once, Chris. Lonzo Ball is a better rookie than Donovan Mitchell, full stop. Not even a question.
Yep.
Aggregate though, because that's the other argument you could conceivably make is, well, true, maybe on a permanent basis, but Donovan Mitchell's played 60 games, Lonzo Ball's missed 20 games, so clear that extra 20 games is more important. Nope. Total wins added to the team, Lonzo Ball is a better player. And to your point, what's interesting is they look like a good defensive team. The Lakers are 11th in the NBA at defense. Their offense is kind of struggling, but a key point to that is Lonzo Ball's shooting was really struggling at the beginning of the season. Man, that field goal, it's going to take a while for this to normalize. As a career, it's very similar to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, one of the most prolific shooters in NBA history, his first season really weighs down his career.
It's god awful. You throw it out, and I think if you throw it out, I think he's a 50-40-90 player.
Yeah, but that's what makes it hard is like, Kevin Durant did a very LeBron James-ish, right? By like year 3, he's an MVP caliber player, never looks back. But you're looking at Kevin Durant's career stats at year 3, and you're like, he looks worse. And then you look at that rookie season. Lonzo Ball is going to be in the same boat. His true shooting is still 46%, but I don't know. I don't have splits readily available. But like last 5 or 6 games, it has to be considerably better.
His true shooting during the early part of the season was in the 30s, so it has improved a great deal.
Actually, yeah, I recall I wrote an article about how impressive it was that Lonzo Ball, by the numbers, was a better rookie currently at that time, and it's still the case, obviously, than LeBron James. The easy out I'll give to LeBron James fans is LeBron James was a high schooler, one of the last in the NBA, and this is a point when we come up to Mitchell I want clear. There is a lot to be said for impressive play out of young players, but the scoreboard doesn't give a damn. When Lonzo Ball makes a shot, it doesn't say, hey, are you a rookie? Good job. Here's an extra point, 2 points. It says 2, 3, 1, right? Didn't count in order, but whatever. 1, 2, 3, right? So, that's definitely a point where, LeBron James was impressive as a high schooler, but wasn't a productive NBA player. Lonzo Ball is a productive NBA player, and that's without a shot. And that's remarkable.
Well, I can tell you that, again, I don't have access to a lot of advanced numbers. I've just been watching his wins produced rate creep up. And since he started shooting better, I think his wins produced has gone up from about roughly average around 100 up to 162 as of tonight. So it's been rising very fast.
And it's annoying. I have 2 computers. One, I usually have a terminal that I can run code and all that, and occasionally hit my database. I'm not on that machine, so I couldn't get the terminal up, but I was going to try and do his true shooting calculation. But it is night and day. And actually, again, we're going to keep harping the Lonzo Ball versus Donovan Mitchell. It's not even close. Brian, you should probably bring up the players tool, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I've got him up right now, and I've got Ben Simmons in there too, so I'm cheating a little bit. I've got all 3 of them. But
Simmons in the Rookie of the Year race as well?
Well, just because...
I think he's considered the lead. Again, this is the whole debate over should he be a rookie or not, but the NBA considers him a rookie.
Yeah, I think it is ludicrous to get. Yeah, I mean, when you have an award, you look at the criteria, and that's something we've often harkened back to on the show, which is there are times we'll get offended by what is MVP, and we go, the benefit they have with MVP. And so, for instance, I consider this probably 3rd or 4th most egregious is the 2011 Derrick Rose MVP. Mm-hmm. There is a set of criteria you can give to give it to Derrick Rose, which would be the most rounded player that is important to his team's production on a contender. Because LeBron James had a lot more help than Derrick Rose did from an all-around standpoint. Derrick Rose had a lot of defensive help because that was what the Bulls were good at, but he didn't have a lot of offensive help, and Derrick Rose was good. It was a good two-way player. So, fine.
Wow, Derrick Rose stinks this year.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and there's another player I want to get back to, but let's I'll finish up on Lonzo.
He was actually above average that season, but yes, in no way, shape, or form was he deserving of being an MVP.
Yeah, I mean, the metric they went with was top scoring player on a contending team that isn't LeBron James, because how dare LeBron James not give us an exclusive on where he was going? That was the.
Andre, here's one thing I picked up from this comparison page here: Lonzo Ball versus Donovan Mitchell. After this recent hot streak, Ball is now up to 33.9% on threes. Donovan Mitchell is only at 34.7%. So Ball is like almost a dead heat now with Donovan Mitchell as a three-point shooter.
At one point when one of you are talking, I'm definitely going to cheat and copy into Excel, Google Drive, and calculate his actual true shooting numbers on the last couple of games and his like 3-point percentage and stuff. But what I was going to know, Chris, is so Donovan Mitchell versus Lonzo Ball. What bugs me is I keep bashing Donovan Mitchell. I keep poking that bear. And this was a bizarre week. I think I don't recall if I said it pre-show or on the show. If so, I apologize for repeating, listeners. Donovan Mitchell liked the tweet I made this week, which is odd.
He liked it.
He liked it. And
interesting.
So I said all Donovan Mitchell is good at is taking lots of shots. And basically it's the Allen Iverson yay points thing.
Right. He liked it. That's interesting.
Well, I'm gonna throw something out here. This is actually a pet peeve of mine, and I had this point go over someone's head on Twitter, and I'll throw it to you too as well. It's just a question. I don't think you're doing anybody any favors or being nice or doing. I don't think you are in any way being noble when you tag a celebrity about negative news about them. So that's what happened with Donovan Mitchell. I think the reason he liked it is I said it. I didn't tag him. I'm very much of the opinion, and I'm in this boat. And you and I, Chris, like you more so than me, but we're like internet famous, which means thousands of people on the internet know who we are. And occasionally in real life, someone might say, your name's familiar. Have you heard so-and-so your name? And you're like, that's me. That's where you and I are. As I mentioned, you significantly much more than me. I imagine between like Quora and LinkedIn and stuff that occasionally people are like, have you read this book, The Alliance? And you get to like chuckle to yourself and say, let me tell you something. But I don't want you to tag me when people disagree with me or dislike me. I have enough of a following and I'm small potatoes. That's the key point. I'm nothing. I don't want you to tag me with every time someone doesn't like something I say or doesn't like me. And so this mentality of the internet of when you say something about a celebrity, and celebrities are, and I include myself in this because I'm a writer, people who are in the public eye, it's fine to scrutinize them because they have put themselves in the public eye. Where I draw the line is you don't need to go up and tell them, and you're not doing them any favors. Going up to Donovan Mitchell and saying someone on the internet doesn't like you, you're doing that. You're not doing that for Donovan Mitchell. You're doing that for you. So I very much don't like this, but enough Utah fans did it to Donovan Mitchell where he saw it, and I'm not actually happy with that because I think, and I guess like I said, I'll throw it to you and Brian if I'm standing alone on an island there.
Listen, the way I'd put it is this: if somebody was talking smack about me, I'd want to know about it, and again, I don't think your intention in not adding him was to try to put something over on him or go behind his back. But I think that if his loyal fans are like, hey, check this guy out, you ought to respond to him, I don't have any problem with that. In fact, I prefer if somebody violently disagrees with me and wants to say mean things about me, I'd rather they at me so I can at least respond or know about it.
So we have two sides of the coin there where I'm like, you violently disagree with me, that you, or rather, I guess it's the secondhand market. I'm like, if you know someone who violently disagrees with me, you're fine leaving me out. But Chris is the other way. So if you know anybody that disagrees with Chris, send him his way, and I'll let Brian chime in as well. This is a fun.
I'll give Donovan Mitchell the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he agrees with you, and he knows he's going to take a lot of shots and get paid. Well, maybe he knows that already.
Well, I will say one thing about Donovan Mitchell, and this is a general point. I don't remember if I've made it on a podcast before or not, but I think that there is this general point that I have where, because it's the Yeh points thesis, but it goes beyond that. So part of it is Yeh points. People look at the points per game average, but the other part of it is I think that NBA fans dramatically overvalue one specific skill, which is one-on-one isolation scoring off the dribble.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think that particular skill, I'm constantly dealing with, absolutely constantly dealing with NBA, with Lakers podcasters talking about how somebody like Larry Nance is not talented and how somebody like Donovan Mitchell is phenomenally talented. And what they're really saying is this person is willing to take a lot of shots in one-on-one isolation scoring off the dribble instances.
And what I'll give to this too, because I haven't quite finished this, and we'll see where this piece gets. I will make a piece at some point, if not multiple, about Donovan Mitchell over the course of the season. But I have no problem with what he's doing because we make this point in the show, and I was going to maybe talk Isaiah Thomas a little too. If you're an NBA player, your job is to get paid. Your goal is to maximize your earning potential over. Realistically, you have to be realistic with yourself, a 5 to 6 year span, probably only 1 to 2 contracts, and that second contract may not be that great. So basically, your goal as an NBA player is to get yourself in the best scenario for your second contract. Because your rookie contract you have no control over, but your second contract, that's where restricted free agency, you're up for a big boost. Donovan Mitchell knows. So this is what's funny. I keep poking this bear too. He is not yet at 20 points per game, and I'm so glad he did this tonight because I knew we were going to talk him, and if he went out and did another 40-point game, I'm going to be like, well, I don't want to have to explain the bell curve to people, but yeah. But he had a very Donovan Mitchell-y game. 20 points on 15 shots, 6 assists, 6 turnovers. I believe when the numbers come in tomorrow, he's going to be a below-average player for the game.
Right.
And the reason the Utah Jazz won is defense, and their defense has oddly been amazing since their defensive player of the year candidate, Rudy Gobert, got back from injury. I do think, by the way, for what it's worth, based on the numbers, Donovan Mitchell looks good at defense as well. But a lot of the numbers I've looked at basically say for consistent defense that you can control, that isn't really a scheme. It is the paint, basically. Perimeter defense, that means you have to have a good scheme, a coach that knows what they're doing, players that buy into a scheme, more so than being able to have one player that can impact the defense. I think that's not controversial, maybe.
Now, a quick question about Donovan Mitchell. You may have this on your screen, but out of the Utah Jazz, where does he rank in terms of wins produced? What would you guess?
Oh, interesting. Because I don't have...
Because I have it up in front of me, so I know the answer.
Fifth
You're
or
saying
sixth?
total wins produced for the season.
Total wins produced for this season.
I would have to guess fifth or sixth based on...
It is ninth.
Oh,
Ninth?
wow. I was going to go higher and
Ninth.
say fourth.
No. He is behind Joe Ingles, Rudy Gobert, Derek Favors, Thabo Cephalosha, Epe Udoh, Royce O'Neal, whoever that is, Ricky Rubio, and Alec Burks.
Wow. And I know we're going to get flack for that. Because, I mean, our numbers, the good news for him, right? Although, man, if Ricky Rubio, this is actually a little depressing. If Ricky Rubio were just playing as good as George Hill, this team could be something. That's actually a bigger story.
I also think the other story is that Joe Ingles is amazing.
Yeah, he kind of came out of nowhere. He's kind of an older player that hasn't been good earlier in his career.
Another depressing. So the Utah Jazz.
Well, no. Joe Ingles has been above average. He's only been.
Let's check it out. Let's go to the big
He's always been above average.
You could call Joe Ingles the age curve. I mean,
you're right. I underestimated him, Chris.
See, you underestimated him because he is a balding white dude who looks really goofy, and the image that people have in their mind is, how could this guy possibly play shooting guard and guard guys who can jump twice as high as him? But it turns out he is really productive. He doesn't score a lot, but he's good at rebounding. He's good at assists.
Defense,
he keeps his turnover down. He defends. He gets steals. He is a really good player that almost any team in the NBA ought to really want to have.
And here's the big thing, guys. I've got him up on the screen right now. He's shot 44% from three last year and is doing it again this year. So he's really become a dead-eye three-point shooter, one of the best in the NBA.
But just so we're clear on Donovan Mitchell, too, so a few things. He's looking to maximize his earning potential, and I think he knows, and if he doesn't have agents or friends that are telling him this, he's surrounding himself with the wrong people. He needs people that are telling him. If I was friends with him, and he was like, man, you're bashing me all the time on Twitter, I'd go, as a Utah Jazz fan, as a Utah Jazz front office official, as a voter of awards, yes. As your friend that would like to see you succeed in this, keep effing shooting and get that points above. If you get your points above 20 points a game and you guys make the 6th seed in the playoffs, there's a very real chance you steal Rookie of the Year from Ben Simmons. So I know he knows this. He has to know this. If he doesn't know this, he needs to get more edge. And I want to stress this. He seems like a very savvy player just based on his gameplay. Like what you're saying, Chris, is like, yeah, he does these certain types of plays, but those types of plays get you on SportsCenter, and that type of play gets you paid. Any player that was given, as a rookie, if you're given an opportunity to take 16 shots a game, if you don't take it, I am, as an agent, as your friend, as anything but the coach or the GM of that team, I am upset with you.
Right. And by the way, to quote the great Jalen Rose, who only had one above average season in his entire career, give the people what they want.
Oh,
right.
They want buckets, and that's what Jalen Rose did over the course of his career, even though he was below average for every single season of his career other than his rookie season.
Wow. All right.
And let me ask you, guys, this about the Fab Five. Was Jalen Rose the member of the Fab Five that came up with the long shorts? I think he might have been.
He was their leader. He was their spiritual leader.
So he should be in the Hall of Fame just for the long shorts. I love that.
And I forget when he not Jalen. I get the name wrong. I spelled it wrong, right? There's another Jalen Brown that's in line.
Jalen Rose played from 1994 to 2007.
Okay, here's what happened. I started spelling Jalen incorrect with a Y.
Jalen Brown.
That brought up Jalen Brown by default, and then I said that wrong. So apologies, Jalen Rose, one of the most overpaid Nuggets in Nuggets history. That is true. at one point. But what I was going to say is he not? He's not in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, he's up there with Chris Webber. I'd put him in the Hall of Fame just if for nothing else in the Fab Five. But yeah, give them what they want. Get yourself what you want. And then also another point I want to make sure is clear about Donovan Mitchell is his age. Nothing about his age has me worried. There's nothing to say that he won't turn into a better player. In fact, quite the contrary. Like a player that's fascinating to me in the same vein is we thought Andrew Wiggins, kind of same boat, right? Just a chucker as a rookie, overpaid, overrated. That's fine, right? I think Andrew Wiggins won Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken.
Don't remember.
No one remembers that. That should tell you about the Rookie of the Year award. But
I don't care about that award.
What we're going to note is, well, Andrew Wiggins.
I think he probably did, just because by default, but we'll see.
He did win Rookie of the Year.
Oh, that's awful.
Overrated, fine. We were like, okay, but here's the good news. With the age curve, he's a horrible player, but maybe he'll become a below average player.
He's gotten worse every single year.
That's what I was going to say. So I will say this has bitten us before, and admittedly, right, you've got it up in front of you, right? I believe Andrew Wiggins was a significantly worse rookie than Donovan Mitchell, right?
Oh, not significantly worse, but definitely worse.
Because, I mean, Donovan Mitchell is almost 50%, is almost half of an average NBA player, which for a rookie is a little below where we'd want to see you, but is fun.
Yep. So this is another case where using the adjusted instead of the overall wins produced might be illustrative. Donovan Mitchell on an adjusted basis is 156, and in his rookie season, it looks like Wiggins was 104. So you could say that Wiggins was 2/3 as productive on a raw basis as Donovan Mitchell this year.
I've started talking about this, and I may have to write about it. What is interesting about the NBA, I think we're kind of experiencing what I'd call a phase of matter shift. Mm-hmm. There is starting to get to be inflation, because I've noticed this too. A lot of people, this is the most hilarious comparison I've seen. A lot of people are comparing Donovan Mitchell to Michael Jordan as their rookies.
They're insane.
Okay, but here's what they're doing, which is amusing. They use 54% true shooting as the cutoff. Now, here's the difference. Michael Jordan as a rookie, 59% true shooting. Donovan Mitchell as a rookie, I believe, I don't have it up in front of me, somewhere around 54.3% true shooting.
54.6. Yep, you got it.
You. Oh, no, that's enough off, Brian. That's like a win right there over a full season, right? Michael Jordan's rookie season, I believe, again, I'm doing this from memory, so look it up. Don't take this as word of God. Was around 53.5% league average true shooting percentage, regardless of position. So Michael Jordan as a rookie was shooting 5.5% better, maybe 6% better than league average. Donovan Mitchell as a rookie, league average is 55.7% true shooting. So Donovan Mitchell as a rookie, shooting 1% worse than league average. Michael Jordan as a rookie, shooting 6% better than league average. Yep. Do I really need to compare the difference to you? But a key point about that is, right, there has been inflation, and I think a lot of it is Morey ball. Whether or not Morey deserves the credit for Morey ball, teams are starting to realize you've got to be able to shoot threes. You've got to be able to. It's a funny way of phrasing it. The space the floor argument is right, but it's with threes. You've got to have players that stretch the perimeter threes, and then maybe I can call this like a wrecking ball, Giannis and Ben Simmons. Then you got to have a big that can just plow through the center, so that anybody that's trying to guard the perimeter has to step back a bit, and that's the perfect offense.
Right. And I think you may have seen there was a story about a retrospective on Drazen Petrovic. Petrovic.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how Drazen Petrovic was, known as this dead-eye shooter and a gunner and just, endlessly shooting three-pointers. And I think that in his season where he made All-NBA, he shot like 2.5 a game. Something crazy like that.
Yeah, and
I noticed that too,
things
Chris.
have just changed dramatically.
I love watching him as a player, but the numbers don't really back it up, unfortunately. Like, it's just because of the situation of his death, he's got this legend behind him. And, where he came from, there weren't a ton of Europeans coming into the NBA at the time.
But this is, I mean, we've had questions. This is the New Jersey Nets, but I've also had questions about the Utah Jazz, is players in a different era. Because I feel one player that I feel gets underrated, but at least he got into the Hall of Fame first ballot, so I'm okay with that, is Reggie Miller. And if for F's sakes, if Ray Allen doesn't make first ballot Hall of Fame, I'm burning it all down.
I would be stunned if he didn't. He's got at least 2 NBA championships, 2 rings. He'll make it.
Yeah, he was part of 2 different, mini dynasties or full dynasties. I don't know. What do you want to call it?
But
if you only win 1 championship, you're not a dynasty. So
that's fair.
He's part of a great Boston Celtics mini run.
That's fair.
freaking Lakers. We're talking about inflation. This is like Lakers grades. I'm like, the Nuggets made the playoffs 10 years in a row, and you're like, the Lakers made 9 of 10 finals over the span of a decade. So talk to me.
That was thanks to the god of wins produced, Magic Johnson.
Absolutely. But looking at Petrovic, what's fascinating is, right, he looks, career average 58.9% true shooting, 60.5% overall. He averages 20.5 field goal attempts per 48 minute. I really want to get, we keep coming back to Mitchell just because he's an easy one. But this question of if teams would change their offense, and I actually had this question about the Dallas Mavericks for the same idea, because you said when he made All NBA, right, Chris? I think you said he was taking what, 2.5?
It looks like he was taking 3 per 48. So there you go. So he was probably taking about 2.5 a game.
So for perspective, Donovan Mitchell, who's getting lots of adulation as something, is taking 10 3-point shots per 48 minutes, and he is a little below league average at 3-point shooting, but we'll give it to him because that kind of three-point shot averaged out over everything is still above league average for effective field goal percentage.
And it's still above his 2-point field goal percentage. Once you multiply it out, you add the 50% bonus.
All right. And then what I was also going to say is, and he's averaging 24.4 shots per 48. So go back to Petrovic, go up to him and say, I want you to take 25% more shots a game than you're taking now. And I want you to reallocate your shots such that you're taking 3 to 4 more 3-point shots a game than you are taking now, including that bump I just gave you. And he was an average player, right? He's an average player then. I mean, he would basically be kind of what people want Klay Thompson to be, because
right,
like Klay Thompson, like he wasn't great, right? I think as he was, looks like he was a little below average at rebounds. Looks like he was spot on for assist to turnover, spot on for. So essentially, the good news is he scored really well. He was a little below average at rebounding, and the problem is he just didn't shoot enough.
Right.
So in modern NBA, you get a player like Drazen Petrovic. He's a 200 wins produced for. He's a 200, which is twice as good an average player, with NBA player easily.
Yeah,
easily.
Because he shot 45% from 3 that year. And then I'm sure at that point in time, the league average was something like 30%. So if you take that 45% and you stack on top of it the 50% bonus for being a 3-pointers, all of a sudden his effective field goal percentage gets ratcheted up significantly, several percentage points. Same for his true shooting percentage, and you're absolutely right. I think he becomes an even not just a star, because he was considered a star by the press, but a true star from a wins produced perspective.
So Chris, we'll tease some stuff because we've got some other ideas about.
By the way, just imagine what that would mean for Michael Cooper.
Ooh.
So look that up, Brian. I'm going to keep talking. But I was going to say, so we've had some ideas for, we have a weekly show that's kind of more around the horn. We've had some ideas for maybe some series. As a very Silicon Valley one, right, Chris? So something I love about Silicon Valley is all the lore of this company had the rights to this patent, or this company had the rights to this idea, and they let it slip through their fingers, right? Google notoriously was up for sale for $1 million, and the company balked. Yahoo sold Google the patent that let them take over for peanuts because Microsoft was trying to buy them. HP owned the rights to the Apple Macintosh, Mac, or whatever, right? So all of these different ideas, you've got to this is another fascinating NBA history question, is like, how many, you had the rights to, and we'd have to compare it, right? Like, you had the rights to, I feel bad because I feel it's below average. I'll call him Ray Allen. I'd say Klay Thompson's a little more right, but let's say Ray Allen. Like, you had Ray Allen on your team, and you were basically, even though they were giving him starters minutes, you were ostensibly playing him as a bench player. An argument we've made about the Utah Jazz is they essentially had Steph Curry and John Stockton. They had Steph Curry, who I don't believe the hype about Steph Curry's defense, because they're too good at defense for Steph Curry to be bad at defense. But they had Steph Curry with an all-defensive mindset as well. Mm-hmm. And they had him shooting. I mean, I'm sure John Stockton's career 3-point shooting is probably like 2 a game or something.
We got to check that out. But of course, again, if you want to talk about the various gods of wins produced, John Stockton is definitely up there. Again, I put Magic ahead of him, but John Stockton's incredible longevity just makes him. I think it's quite possible that he has the largest number of wins produced in his career of any player.
That is true. And then what's funny is I'm a trivia fan, and there are certain trivia categories. I remember Trivial Pursuit. I never used to know the entertainment because I had the old version. It was 50s and 60s television shows. And your shot in the dark answer, because we never knew anything. I'd be like, this television show was this, and it's like The Monkey and the Badger. And you're like, what? What the hell is that?
I'd watch that show.
Exactly.
Sounds exciting, especially if it's a honey badger.
You know, Ron Howard's brother was on a show about a bear, which was interesting.
Gentle Ben.
Yeah, there was. Okay, I got to get on this tangent because it's one of the most amazing things. Ron Howard's brother was in a terrible movie called The Wraith with Charlie Sheen, and it's a horror. It's one of those so bad it's good movies. It's been on How Did This Get Made? I actually knew what it was because a friend of mine watched it. Like, this is a horrible movie. So he goes on David Letterman to promote this movie, and it is very clear that he knows that this is not a good movie and it's not going to be on. So he gets on David Letterman to promote The Wraith, and they start talking about Gentle Ben for like 10 minutes, and then he gives David Letterman some scratch tickets and leaves. So that's one of my favorite kind of... Anyway, but so to back to the original point, I used to play Trivial Pursuit. I'd never know this one category, but you'd have shot in the dark answers. It was Ronald Reagan and Barbie doll. For entertainment, just if you didn't know the answer, one of those two was likely an answer that was valid. This toy, this whatever.
So here's an amazing fact.
Okay, so
John Stockton, for his career, shot per 48 minutes 2.2 per game. And the average point guard shot 3.3 over that time period, I guess. He hit 38% of his threes, which in that era made him one of the deadliest shooters in the league.
And compare that to even like Chris Paul now, right? If you look at Chris Paul's 3-point shooting rate, and exactly what you're saying, like there, Chris, at that point is like John Stockton is your shot in the dark trivia answer to so many trivia questions. Longevity, best at an old age, leads in this, leads in that. John Stockton, if you don't know the answer to an advanced stats question, shotgunning John Stockton is not a bad strategy.
And putting the assists aside, if you're just talking about his shooting, guys,
oh my God,
60.8% career true shooting for a point guard during that era is crazy. Like that's even pretty good now.
Yeah,
I think, and that's the point. Is I think under a modern offense, I think this is a fun one. Like maybe you call it like time traveling D'Antoni. You take D'Antoni back in time and put him in charge of the Dallas Mavericks in the mid-'90s, as I mentioned, or mid-2000s with Steve Nash. Yep. Or you take him back in time and put him in charge of the Utah Jazz in the 90s. What the hell happens?
Again, let us remind people, with John Stockton as well as Jeff Hornacek, who was an amazing shooter as well.
And you can't even worry about defense, right? You've got Karl Malone and Mark Eaton. I mean, that those teams... Rightfully so, right? They made 2 finals. You can't take anything away from those Jazz teams, but you just got to wonder if they just marginally tweak their offense, what could have been.
Jeff Hornacek, a career 40% 3-point shooter.
Wow.
All right, that's a team we have to look at. Let's get back to I have no idea how to gracefully do this, but let's get back to the modern Lakers because we were talking about historical whatever. So we're praising all of these shooters that are underutilized. What I was actually going to say about Lonzo Ball versus Donovan Mitchell in that regard is one thing that's impressed me about Lonzo Ball since coming back, and I wonder if this seems conscious, Chris, is it looks like he's done a very wages of wins comment that we have, which is we'll say this player's a chucker, and people are like, well, someone's got to take the shots. If Kobe Bryant doesn't take 20 shots a game, who on that team is going to take 20 shots a game? And our response is no. What we mean is Kobe Bryant takes 20 shots a game. What if, spitballing here, he takes 16 shots a game? That's 1 shot a quarter. And you give 1 extra shot a quarter to one of Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom, Trevor Ariza when they had him,
Andrew Bynum when he was still good.
And Andrew Bynum when he was still good. What if we just take 1 shot a quarter and redistribute? And it looks like that. I mean, excluding that one game that he just did shoot lights out and did great. Lonzo Ball, before he went out injured, was taking, on average, it looks like about 12 shots a game.
Yeah.
Since he's back, 8 shots, 4 shots, 5 shots, 12 shots. Now, to be fair, that 12-shot game, 6 for 10 from 3.
Yeah. And Lonzo Ball is a player who, while he is, at this point of the year, a good shooter, does not feel the need to shoot. If Lonzo Ball didn't have to shoot at all, I mean, he almost never forces up a shot. When he shoots, it's because it's the right thing within the flow of the offense. Now, he does absolutely need to get better at finishing at the rim. He's had a lot of trouble with that. And he still has no mid-range game. But just between his ability to get to the cup on the break and his 3-point shooting, I think he has more than enough scoring to be an effective NBA point guard, to be one of the best in the game.
candidly, from my perspective, it feels very much like steals in the end in Major League Baseball. It's like if you're not going to be Chris Paul, like Chris Paul, by the way, Chris Paul is. Are you guys okay with this comparison? I'm going to make this. I think it's a good. I think
go ahead.
Chris Paul is the Ricky Henderson of the NBA.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying. A player who specializes in something that typically reduces value and yet is so good and so prolific at it that he actually turns it into added value.
If I showed, yeah, exactly. So in the case of Ricky Henderson, basically like stealing bases and like leadoff sack buntish situations that turn into bases, he was amazing at that. Chris Paul, if I showed you Chris Paul's shot chart and did the classic, league average.
Oh, yeah.
This is the ugliest damn shot chart. Why are you showing me Andrew Wiggins? I get it. Andrew Wiggins sucks. Take him off the team. And I go, no, that's Chris Paul. Chris Paul shoots like 60% from mid-range. It is ludicrous. But to that point, if you're not going to be Chris Paul, I don't want you taking mid-range shots. To Lonzo Ball's point, I did not realize this, Chris, so let's take a look.
And by the way, Ricky Henderson career almost 111 wins above replacement.
Jeez.
Amazing.
I got to meet him. He's a cool guy. And I was going to say, actually, this is very promising to me. Looking at Lonzo Ball's shot, but to what you're saying, he takes almost 30% of his shots, 29.1% from the rim. He takes 51.3% of his shots from three. Oh my God, I love you, Lonzo. Except 33.9% from three. Need you to work on that. 47.2% from the line or from the hoop. We really need that up, Lonzo.
Yeah, no, and I think he'll get better. I think that if you look at this season, he's improved as the entire season has gone along. The same was true in Summer League. He's a very cerebral player. He is able to analyze and figure out what to do in order to make things happen. This is a preemptive shout out. One of the people I will shout out is Pete Zayas, who runs a YouTube account called Laker Film Room, who does an amazing job of doing breakdowns of game film. So check out Laker Film Room and watch his videos. Every time he drops a new one, the fans who subscribe just thank him. It's like, this is the best analysis ever. And it is really, really good.
Oh, bummer. All right. Well, I am apparently blocked from Laker Film Room.
Why is that?
I probably said something mean about Kobe.
What's up, Laker?
Whatever.
Yeah.
Same. We've said this too. I have no. If you blocked me or I blocked you, like again, there's not an entitlement. There's not like that. But we'll make sure to give them their due. Give the shout out. But I'll make sure to follow YouTube, right, to watch those.
They definitely go to YouTube and subscribe to Laker Film Room. It is amazing.
We're showing his last video, which is from 4 months ago now, about how Lonzo can't score. He needs to update that about how he's improved his scoring.
You got to go to uploads. He releases new videos every week or two.
Oh, okay.
So for whatever reason, that's probably the most popular one because everyone was like, "Oh, I want to see that."
All the haters. I've got an answer personally, Chris, for fixing Lonzo's shot. It's a little bit tilted, to the side. They just play their games at the North Pole. The Earth's axis will correct the tilt in his shot. Perfect.
By the way, if you ever look at any ESPN story that mentions Lonzo Ball, it is insane how many comments they have. There's a reason why people complain. Why do they write about Lonzo Ball so much? Why do they cover LeVar Ball? It's because it generates endless clicks and shares. Yeah. And I guarantee you, any story about Lonzo, there is about half the people talking about how Lonzo is terrible, he's a bust, he's no good, and then what they don't do is they don't say it's because he can't shoot. They say it's because of his dad.
Interesting.
Guys, I've seen a tweet from sports writers, like a different version of tweet, several different times. I'm interested if you guys have seen this as well, which is sports writers basically saying, we don't want to write about LeVar Ball, but we're forced to by our editors.
The clicks.
Yeah.
It's just he generates clicks. He's like I've compared him to the president of the United States. They're two peas in a pod.
Yeah, I mean, it is amusing. Like
that's kind of an insult to LeVar Ball, so I take that back.
It is, but it's still funny.
Let them understand what's very annoying. At least some of those writers that you're talking about, Brian, admit it, because it gets very frustrating when someone at ESPN goes, "Can you believe LeVar Ball said this outrageous thing?" And I go, "You're the adult in the room." We got parents on this podcast. I don't get to go up to someone and say, "Can you believe my son Daniel went in the kitchen and pulled out all the drawers and threw all of the dishes on the floor?" And the reaction to that is, why did you let a toddler into the kitchen unsupervised for long enough to do that? And so it's the same with ESPN. Why did LeVar Ball say this? Why did you give him a mic? Like, why did you give him a mic and let him say this? You bring a camera crew. Like, if he says it and no one's there to report on it, it does not happen.
Except for on Facebook, where presumably Ball and the family is going to play on heavy rotation.
Interesting. Let's try and give a little more love to some of in terms of other.
Yeah, we'll talk. Let's give a little bit of love to some of the other Lakers, and that will also give us a way to talk about Lonzo Ball. So one of the things that's fascinating is, again, some of this could be the age curve, but if you look at the various Lakers on the team who were there before, almost all the Lakers are playing at a career high level in this season with Lonzo Ball. If you look at KCP, if you look at Julius Randle, if you look at Larry Nance, if you look at Brandon Ingram, all of them are playing better than they had ever played before in their career.
Actually, I'll give you. Didn't he leave? Didn't they get him off the? So I thought he was on OKC. Didn't he get waived? Corey Brewer.
Corey Brewer. No, he is on OKC. The Lakers bought him out.
Yeah, right move. But I'll give him this. He was playing like career. Again, below average as a player, but he was playing career highs on the Lakers.
I'm telling you, there is a Lonzo effect of some kind. I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. It's the fact that that Lonzo sets people up in positions where they have advantage. They can very quickly go to the basket, and they run a lot. They run more transition plays. The two teams in the NBA with the sort of closest to ideal shot selection are the Houston Rockets, of course, and then the Lakers. The only reason the Lakers offense sucks is because they're terrible at hitting shots.
I'm going to ask a question that's going to make you maybe bum out and see if you have anything for us, because I'm optimistic about the Lakers because they've got some great young pieces and we love Lonzo. But I still question, I don't want them going after Paul George. Even after we updated the position numbers, it basically says he's a good, not great player, and he's old, so he's past his prime.
Yep.
So you don't want to pay him a max contract. How are you feeling about the management? Because one player I just looked at that followed the age curve great, was playing great this season, and is playing even better next to another versatile, you could argue, oversized point guard in LeBron James, is Larry Nance Jr.
Yes.
And Larry...
Oh, so this is a tough one. So Larry Nance Jr. is an amazing player. I one of the things I thought in my mind, I don't know if I ever sent it to you, but I think I said something like the Lakers are always looking for a superstar. They already have one. His name is Larry Nance Jr. Yeah. But absolutely true. So it did bum me out greatly. So the way I look at Larry Nance Jr. and the trade, which ultimately bummed me out greatly, but I decided probably was worth it in the end, is that the Lakers in that particular trade were able to turn Larry Nance Jr. into getting rid of both Jordan Clarkson's contract and getting a first-round pick. That's a lot of value.
And one interesting thing, let me just verify this real quick on Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's one of those players that always bristles us. We always worry like Andrew Wiggins is in the same boat where it's almost a game of hot potato, where you look at Andrew Wiggins and you're like, this guy is really hurting your team. But you also go, they have his bird rights and he's coming up on a contract year. And actually it's even worse. So it already happened. What I was going to say is, you've got this player that's not a good player that chucks a lot. And you're like, oh dear God, if this guy does not get traded, by the time he's up for contract renegotiation, Andrew Wiggins got a max deal. And we knew that was coming. Like, with Patrick, we're watching the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we're like, you've got Karl Anthony Towns, and he's great. At the time, you had Rubio, who's great. They're still fine, right? Because they got Jeff Teague, and Jeff Teague is fine. And they got Jimmy Butler. It's like, you were doing great. It's like, but you just got to get, Brian always calls them landmines. Like, you just got to get off that Andrew Wiggins landmine. And they did.
Oh, no, they saw that landmine, and they leapt over, and they jumped in with both feet.
And so to your point here, I think obviously it's a net loss, but one kind of benefit to what you're saying is exactly that, which is Jordan Clarkson's not a good player, but as long as he's on that team, he's going to get minutes and he's going to take shots from an otherwise like your point is
right. Taking like, minutes away from either Lonzo Ball or Josh Hart.
And we'll do Hart next, absolutely, for that. And what you were saying, right? The Lakers have a beautiful offense. They just don't have the tools for it yet. And part of that is they have one of the there's no way he doesn't finish it out this way just because there's not enough season left. I mean, he'd have to turn into Michael Jordan plus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Brooke. You're thinking of Brooke.
Who? No, I was going to say Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball is not going to be able to turn into an above-average shooter by the end of the season. There's just not enough time left, which is fine. But that's the point. The Lakers have a beautiful offense. They just don't quite have the pieces. And one of the we don't have a complaint. This is what we said preseason. We said we love Lonzo Ball. We think he was the best pick in the draft. We think it's ridiculous that he fell to number 2. I can't believe that the Celtics let us. They still get to win in that, but I mean,
I got to tell you, Tatum has surprised us all.
Yes.
Yeah.
If he hasn't surprised you, you're lying to me. But anyway, so the Lakers.
Now that being said, he's been trending downwards as opposed to Lonzo trending upwards. It's amazing how so many times it's like the baseball season. You see a guy hitting 370 at the beginning of the season or the All-Star break. At the end of the year, he's hitting 295. And people remember the 370 as opposed to a guy who starts off at 120 and then gets his way up to 295.
That's perfect. We always bring up like Dan Ariely on this podcast. He's talked about that, how that exact, you do lab experiments of that exact trend, and you ask people to make the exact same decision, but you just phrase it as the price was $100, now it's $90. Do you buy it? Versus the price was $110, or other way around. The price was $80, now it's $90. Do you buy it? Exact same item, exact same price, place, and time, but just adding that little needless. I'll call it the needless Bayesian, right? Because we talk about Bayesian statistics. Statistics that are needless. You throw them out, but. They're running a beautiful offense with one of the worst shooters in the NBA right now, but he's getting better. If they just improve that offense, and Clarkson was not going to improve that offense, so I'll give a little there, and then let's get to John. So that's another.
Let's also make clear the reason why they made that trade. The reason they made that trade is by clearing Clarkson's salary, which was $13 million a year. By clearing Clarkson's salary, it means that the Lakers, without any further trades or anything else that requires another team to participate, can clear enough cap room for one supermax and one max.
Interesting.
So the whole idea behind, and I agree, the whole idea behind the Paul George, LeBron James thing, and I think we may have even talked about this at one point in time, paying for Paul George may be okay if that's the only way to get LeBron James to come.
Absolutely. And we were talking Sam Hinkie last week, and what was funny to your 2 max contract deals, because I recall the New York Knicks. There was the season for LeBron James, the first decision.
Yep.
Everybody and their mother was clearing cap room, and a team that looked really good was the Chicago Bulls. Right, Chicago Bulls. Oh my God, Dwyane Wade, LeBron James. Either of you is going to plug in nicely here, but the problem you're going to have selling it to them is they're the only star. Now we'll come back. We'll come back. Wages of wins people, and this was the same as when Kevin Garnett went to the Celtics. We can come back to LeBron James and Dwyane Wade and say, look, man, you got Joakim Noah. He's amazing. You got Carlos. I don't think I had Carlos Boozer, but you had some other good, like Thabo Cephalosha. You got these great productive players, and they're going to look at me and go, "What the hell are you talking about?" Whereas you tell LeBron James who got Dwyane Wade, or you tell Kevin Garnett you got Ray Allen, who at the time, by the way, Ray Allen looked like he was on the down. There was no guarantee he was going to come back. But so it's the exact same point. The New York Knicks were, to many people, the favorite because they're the big market and they've cleared cap, but they were only targeting LeBron James, and LeBron James goes, there's only me here. So the Lakers' point, if they
hold on, they spent their money. Poor Knicks fans. They spent their money on Amare Stoudemire, thinking that would help them lure in LeBron James.
Was that why they did? I was going to say, because I thought it was
spent money on Amare, and they were like, Amare is going to then recruit LeBron James. This is an absolutely true fact. That is what they thought. Wow. And nobody else would sign Amare because they're like, his knees are shot. No one will insure the contract. It's going to end up being dead weight if anything goes wrong. And the Knicks said, no, we're going to sign Amare because we think he's going to help us get LeBron James.
Mosey Platt, we've often talked about the problem of injuries being so black boxish. There we go. Like the musical player. But anyway, but Mosey was actually saying that there was actually some news at the time about Amare's knee surgery, which oddly ended up in the movie Trainwreck, which, anyway, that was kind of odd.
I remember that.
There was absolutely no reason he should have let Hader. Oh, sorry. But in that movie, he lets Bill Hader perform surgery on him after Bill Hader shows up.
Depressed, suicidal.
Yeah, to one of the things. So it's just like, there's no reason that should have happened. That was the only thing that took me out of an otherwise great movie, Trainwreck. Trainwreck was great with LeBron James, but
LeBron was great in it.
The Amare Stoudemire subplot took me out of the rest of an otherwise great movie. But to that point, there was actually a time limit given on the surgery. Like people that knew the surgery that he got were like, there's probably a 4-year lifespan on this surgery. And what's funny is that's one of the few cases where you watch him and he hits that 4th year and you're like, oh, that was 100%. Like there have been very few times where someone's given me medical information that I felt was pertinent, and then that medical information actually ended up being true.
Very sad case. He was actually a great player before the injury.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there. Amari Stoudemire with Steve Nash is up there with Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, where you just go, if you just had one more healthy season, what could have been?
Yeah.
But to that point, the Lakers, right, what you're saying, if they have room to court 2 and they know the right 2 to court, they're in a great spot.
So basically, they have the salary cap room to go to LeBron James and say, LeBron, you can come to LA and you can pick any other max player to come with you. That does involve them renouncing the rights to Julius Randle. But the whole point is they would be able to know if LeBron was coming before they had to make that decision.
Oh, nice. And let's do a quick rundown, because you know the team. I feel really bad because you're talking these great players, right? You're talking. I didn't even realize. I knew Larry Nance was good. I didn't know he was this good this season.
He is amazing. He was amazing this season.
And Dre, can I do a quick rundown of what I'm seeing here for the Lakers wins produced?
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so the Caldwell-Pope one you were saying earlier, Chris, none of us could have saw that coming this year. He's their leader in wins produced with 6.7. Larry Nance is still second at 6.1, ahead of Randall and Hart in like half the minutes.
Larry Nance is off the team, so we're pulling him off. Let's do the state of the Lakers. So what we're going to tell, take this team, add a year to it because most of these players are young, and add LeBron James, LeBron James can play any position. It doesn't matter. LeBron James plus one other. And actually, LeBron James plus Paul George, that's a funny scenario where I actually kind of love it, because you basically have 2 players that essentially, when they're on the court, can do any position from 2 to 4.
Exactly.
Arguably 5. LeBron James, he might be a little old for it now, but I'd still say 5.
And the Lakers, by the way, play that positionless style. So one of the things that people don't realize about the advantage of having Lonzo Ball is the Lakers switch all the ball screens, and they allow people like KCP, Lonzo, and Josh Hart to defend post players in the post pretty effectively. This is one of the reasons why the whole Isaiah Thomas trade was clearly just a salary cap thing. Having him actually destroys their traditional defensive alignment. I
was going to say it made me sad because that loss to the Portland Trail Blazers, like I said, I gave a little bit of credit. They did seem to stifle Lonzo, but I'd buy 2 things. One is, as noted, he could not make a 2-pointer. He actually shot really well from there, which is amazing. But he only picked up 2 assists, and he has been doing amazing at assists. I should look into this. There is the player tracking data. I would not be shocked to find that he did his normal number of passes for the game, and just they didn't go in because Portland's defense shut them down that well.
Exactly.
Okay. Actually, I'm gonna steal the mic, Brian. But let's give the rundown. Kind of. This is annoying. We need to fix some screens to have some collated data so I can list all of them together. I know you're in the same boat, Chris, where it's like you have to have one tab open with the ages and then one tab open with the wins produced, and we'll work on it. Maybe.
Yep.
That's always.
But this is the perfect excuse to mention the great Josh Hart.
Okay, so I'll get to him in a second. Let's run these down. We just said Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, almost a 6 wins produced player. He's only 24. They've also got Julius. Now, we're going to leave Julius Randle off the table because, like you said, they'll likely have to renounce him to pick up 2 stars. But the good news is that's a nice backup plan. If they miss out on their pitch, they still can bring back Julius Randle, who is also a 6 wins produced player.
And who I think it even underrates him because he has a Draymondian ability to cover perimeter players on switches.
Beautiful. And he's only 23. Now we got to give love. I'm going to make sure you get a chance to monologue after I just give the basic stats. You've got Josh Hart, who's putting up 4.5 wins produced at a rate of, I'm going to use points over par because basically here's the cutoff. 3 plus 3, that's a margin of victory of +3 against an average team with that player playing the full game. Josh Hart is a 2.8 points over par player. So he's the cusp of being a star. He is 22 years old. So that's those 2 pieces of information together. Let's let you wax effusive about Josh Hart.
So Josh Hart is an amazing player for a variety of reasons. First of all, he's an amazing rebounder. He had a long series of double-doubles. He's averaging 8.4 rebounds per 48, I assume. Yeah, 8.4 rebounds per 48. Second, he is really critical to the Lakers' defense. His ability to guard bigger players in the post has been one of the key things that's allowed the Lakers to play their all-switch defense. KCP has also been very good at that. Finally, Josh Hart, very importantly, is good at finishing at the rim. He's very good at he can take it coast to coast, and he can also fill the lane from the wing when Lonzo's running the break.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's all good. I've got one question after that, but let's two more players. Lonzo Ball, we've waxed a few. So let's stress this. He's only 20 years old. Like,
yes.
I mean, and just to get back to because I have to keep making the Donovan Mitchell comparisons, when I keep saying Donovan Mitchell is not productive now, people come back and say his age. And as I mentioned, the rim doesn't give a damn about your age, but it is still fine for both Donovan Mitchell and Lonzo Ball to say, maybe this year they're not the missing piece, right? Maybe this year the Utah Jazz are the 8th seed because the freaking Denver Nuggets keep giving minutes to Paul Millsap.
Sorry, Dre.
Jokic looked like the best thing since sliced bread, and then they bring back Paul Millsap. That would be like having Mickey Mantle bat 5th in your rotation, and then I don't know, some old player who I don't know comes back and you move him to 7th. It's maddening. But you've got this, Donovan Mitchell's in the piece this year. There's nothing to say in the upcoming years that he won't become it. And actually, the point back to Lonzo, as I was saying, is if he followed the Lonzo Ball trajectory, namely take one fewer shot a quarter, if Donovan Mitchell did that, I think that he could be quite a productive player. So if his shot improves marginally and he distributes the ball a little more, he becomes great. And that was, funny enough, that was our point with Kobe, which is like in 2004, when there were actual stars on the Lakers that he would defer to, that's Shaq, that's Karl Malone, that's Gary Payton, he looked like the player that if he had finished his career playing like that Kobe, we would not be having the stupid arguments that apparently get me blocked by like Lakers stream or whatever. But he didn't, right? And so we're just saying that if Donovan Mitchell can turn into that type of player, it's completely fine to be optimistic, and Lonzo Ball's in the same boat. He's an above-average player right now, looks great, and if he just keeps on that trend, he's only 20 years old. Finally, we got Brandon Ingram, who we've never liked that much, but the good news is he's following the age curve, also young and close to an average player. And I believe in this hot stretch, right? I think I saw some Coach Nick stuff. Hasn't he been playing vastly improved in like the last 25 games?
Absolutely. Since the new year, he's been playing extremely well, probably at an even above average level, and to the point where I think it's actually a bad thing for the Lakers that he's out. So he's injured. He's injured. I can't remember which player. I think they were playing a team. Some player knocked him over, injured him. So he's out for at least a week. But he has played extremely well for the Lakers, and his ability to play well while Lonzo Ball was out, coupled with the fact that opened it up for Josh Hart, the two of them together allowed the Lakers to turn around. Because before that, when the Lakers were playing Tyler Ennis instead of Lonzo, the Lakers had lost every single game that Lonzo had missed.
Oh, wow. And then, okay, last player, because I think this fills out the roster.
Yes.
Kyle Kuzma, now he's kind of in the same vein as Brandon Ingram. He's a slightly below average player, so a negative 0.6 points over par. So that does technically mean he's hurting your team. Mm-hmm. But again, 0 would be fine. 0, basically, you have a couple stars and the rest of your roster is 0 points over a par player. You're a contender. In most years, this year is absurd, right, with 3 teams over 8 points, basically over 8-point margin to contend with.
Now here's the key thing to add on in addition to all that. Okay. So the reason that the Lakers are in such a good position is consider that of those players, 3 of them are on rookie contracts. Brandon Ingram's on his 2nd-year contract. The Lakers have these productive players at the right part of their age curve getting paid almost nothing in some cases. Josh Hart is, I think, a $1 million a year player.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. So let's see. Brandon Ingram, by the way, how did they get him to this deal? Oh no, he's still on his rookie deal. Good.
He is.
Good.
Yeah, he is.
I forgot so this is me being a noob. I forgot the salary cap went up. So I saw the $5 million a year and was used to old thing where it's like the only way he was going to get to that this quick would be outside of. But no, I mean, yeah, he's still on his rookie contract and they've got restricted free agency and plus bird rights.
Yep. So
the interesting thing to me, and I don't know the free agent market well enough, is this is like the Brian point, I think they do need a center.
I was just going to ask Chris about that. Who would you pick if, say, LeBron and Paul George come over to be your forwards and you've got all these guards already?
Excellent question. Well, in terms of guys on the current roster, you have both Ivica Zubac and Thomas Bryant as possibilities. Zubac has played reasonably well this year, albeit in limited minutes. Showed some promise last year, but he really is a traditional kind of center, right? Big 7-foot guy. Bryant is the interesting one. He's a rookie on a second round pick rookie deal, which is very exciting, obviously. And he is a guy who combines athleticism on the perimeter, 3-point shooting, and the ability to block shots.
Okay, so let's throw this out here, though. Let's say you can get LeBron James's ear. So I just thought about this. I know it's in your head too, Brian.
Yeah.
You can get LeBron James's ear in the offseason, and you say, call up DeAndre Jordan.
Oh, that would be if he would choose DeAndre instead of Paul George. That would be the ultimate.
I'm just letting you know the landscape of the free agent market is such that the Lakers could pick up LeBron James and DeAndre Jordan. And what's not, I didn't realize this because looking this over, let's just review. Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma. 3 of those 5 guys are above average already. All of them are close to average. So if you're talking like a 6-man rotation, all of them are 24 or younger. Most of them are 22 or younger. I know it's weird to say most, like 5. And as you're pointing out, Chris, they have room for 2 veterans. And this is a market. I think it's interesting where we might talk tanking and all that. They've been really hot the last 25 games. I actually think that's huge for what you're probably saying.
Oh, by the way, the Lakers don't have their first-round pick this year, so they have no incentive to tank either.
Oh, well, neither do the Nets, but for some reason they are.
No, the Nets just suck.
The Nets played the Warriors
they thought it was
pretty tight
a trade for
night.
D'Angelo Russell. I remember when that trade went through, I was thinking,
that was a really didn't that wasn't that full trade? Didn't that full trade get you Kuzma and a pick?
So the trade was Russell and Mozgov for Brook Lopez, in essence freeing up the salary cap, and the pick became Kuzma.
That is such a steal. I can't. That is one.
For a guy, D'Angelo Russell, that is still in the negative for his career.
There's still time. There's still time for him to pull it out. So Lakers. I mean, it's funny because for most teams, especially tanking teams, I'll typically just be like, this optimism is unfounded, and it's so funny looking at like the Memphis Grizzlies and the Phoenix Suns and all of these. Okay, let's just at least give an acknowledgement to this. So apparently the league office contacted the Chicago Bulls and listen. What I find amusing is this simultaneous notion of incentivizing tanking while trying to say it's not okay. And there's a Dimitri Martin sketch show that's been canceled. But what I loved about this show, that I couldn't find the clip on YouTube, otherwise I'd have shown it on Twitter. But it's called the passive aggressive race, and it's this made up race where the goal is you have to win the race, but you have to pretend you don't want to win. So you have to pretend you're walking. It's like those people that they're rushing somewhere, but they're pretending they're not rushing. So you're trying to walk calmly, and like the trick Dimitri Martin actually uses in the end is he fakes a sneeze to go over the finish line. But that's tanking to me, where it's like all of these teams have to pretend they're not trying to lose while simultaneously trying to lose. And so the Chicago Bulls, the league actually had to step in and say, all of these players are not injured, cut it out.
Yeah. By the way, I just wanted to remember, this is a great opportunity to remember the great Mark Madsen, phenomenal player for Stanford, okay player in the NBA. But anyways, in the final game of the 2006 season when he was with the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves needed to lose the game in order to retain a protected draft pick, Mark Madsen, who had in fact never taken a 3-point shot in the previous 3 seasons, took 7 threes in a span of 9 minutes and 4 seconds. He finished 0 for 7 from behind the arc and 1 for 15 from the field overall in that final game of the season.
Fascinating. And I was going to say, like, that specific scenario, because we always talk tanking here, I cannot tell you not to intentionally lose a game in a finished season to protect the draft pick. That's the problem with the draft is that the one.
Yeah, you're saying that's one where tanking actually helps you. It clearly helps you.
Well, I was going to say what's annoying to me. I was thinking about this today, looking at the tanking issue. Is if we talk about tanking for the full season, I hate that mentality and it's wrong. And even after talking with Sam Hinkie, I still think if any GM or team tries to sell you, we're giving up this season, I go, that is unacceptable. I can buy you being a 30-win team or even a 20-win team to end the season, but there is too much talent in the G League, overseas, undrafted, probably on your squad, probably available for trade, even at good contracts, right? Like you don't need to trade for a $20 million a year player that's not going to be on your team when it's good, but you can trade for a $15 million a year player that's in their late 20s that can help out for a couple seasons. It is unacceptable in my mind to ever give up on a season. But as soon as the season's over, right? As soon as you're past the trade deadline, you can't trade to make your team better. Your magic number might be that it's impossible for you to make the playoffs. And if you're a team in those two scenarios, I don't know what to tell you. I cannot tell you that it's the wrong strategy at this point for Dallas, Chicago, Memphis, Phoenix. How am I dropping? There's one other team that's tied. It might be Brooklyn, but they're not technically in the race.
Orlando?
Yeah, I was going to say Orlando too, yeah.
I can't tell any of those teams at this point. Don't even try. Why would you try? Your fans know you suck. They're not going to the playoffs. They're not going to buy tickets. They're only going to buy tickets if a team they want to see comes through town. It's going to help your draft stock, and that's actually an asset. And it's too late at this point. So that's the problem with the NBA is that we know there's a problem with the end of the season where there's not a reason for teams to compete already. And they've added an incentive to that where even the staunchest anti-tank people all say, man, if I was the Memphis Grizzlies, I'd shut down. I have no problem shutting down Marc Gasol right now. Every day I'd knock on Marc Gasol.
That would hurt their tanking to shut him down.
I was going to say, I don't think Marc Gasol is playing very well this year.
I've got it. Okay, so I'm so behind. They're such a bad team. I don't even have that. But hypothetically, like last couple seasons, right? When if losing like they were supposed to, and we're done, and when Marc Gasol was still productive, you knock on Marc Gasol's door every day, and you're like, hey, Marc, maybe. How's your leg? Do you want to get an MRI? Maybe see if you need to get some procedures done on your leg for the year. So I can't say that's wrong, and that's a problem. And they should fix that incentive, because that incentive, it's bad when the incentive is mispriced, but is still there, as we noted. But it's extra bad when the incentive is there and you can't even get people to say it's not correctly priced.
By the way, since we mentioned his name, we should also mention his big brother, Pau Gasol, somehow still playing at a star level.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So we've mentioned this. We've teased this a few times, Chris, like memory versus reality. The one thing that I think is huge to remember is the Pau Gasol trade at the time was rightly acknowledged to the Lakers as one of the also funny. Sorry, I'm on tangent, so I'm thoughts together. That was acknowledged at the time as one of the biggest fleecings in NBA history. I believe one of my favorite articles or tweets I saw about it was an executive of the year was, the full story went, an executive of the year was just told that Pau Gasol was traded to the Lakers. The executive response was, F me. So that's a great story. And then had the trade gone through, had Pau Gasol gotten traded for Chris Paul,
yes,
Pau Gasol could have been part of two of the biggest fleecing trades in NBA history.
Oh, my God. And again, I think Lakers fans are still pissed at David Stern over that one.
As you should. But
it's just, sorry to interrupt, Dre, but it's just like the Bulls getting, talk to the league about tanking here. It's like, why are you selectively enforcing, rules? Like, why not have a real policy? It's just like all this talk and no like real policy just is stupid to me. That's all.
I 100% agree. But all I was just going to say is, if you look at Pau Gasol versus Marc Gasol, that trade, even with Marc Gasol becoming the defensive player of the year, even if you'd known that ahead of time, that trade was still such a fleecing. Pau Gasol is so much better, and I can't believe it's even now, right? I would have thought eventually there would be a point where Marc Gasol would be older and productive, and Pau Gasol would level up. Pau Gasol has played better than Marc Gasol, I think, every season.
No, there were a couple of years at the end of his Lakers tenure when Pau was forced out of the paint. He actually played below average, but every other year of his career, he's been above average. Okay. So I think it's quite possible for those 2 years, Marc outplayed Pau, but that was the only time.
As soon as he went to Chicago, as soon as he went to the Spurs, he has been a remarkable fountain of youth. We have gone at least an hour. I don't know if on air, but we've gone an hour and a half. So I'm going to say, Chris. I mean, this was so easy. Pre-show, we started talking the Lakers. I was like, I'm not even going to worry. We're going to easily fill the time. But Chris, I'm going to let you get last word on Lakers, NBA. Then we'll of course plug your stuff, and that'll be the show.
Last word on the Lakers. Before the season started, we looked at the Lakers, and previous season their over-under was 26. The previous season they'd won 26 games. And I think our feeling was the Lakers are almost certain to win 35 or more games because just the impact of bringing Lonzo in. I think that is being proven out. Despite the fact that Lonzo's been injured, he's produced nearly 5 wins, and the smart picks that this new front office put in place with Josh Hart adding another 5 wins, plus the other folks they picked up, it demonstrates that I think that the Lakers are clearly under much better management than the late Jimmy Buss regime, which gave $34 million a year to Luol Deng and Timofey Mozgov.
And what's funny is, like, for both of those, what's annoying about both of those is that I would argue at the time they were bad. You know, they
were bad at the time. Everyone knew they were bad.
But what I'm saying, what's annoying from like a curve perspective is, you know, we were discussing this about Blake Griffin, where you kind of give a curve of expected probabilities. And you go, it's not outside the realm of possibility that Blake Griffin returns to MVP form, like he's only done for about 2 to 3 months at a time, but, you know, maybe he strings a full season and playoffs together, and he's worth the money. That's on this curve of possibilities, but there's also the average is he's going to be a below average player and not worth the money. And there's also the left side of the curve where Blake Griffin just is horrible. You know, his knee goes out, he gets in fights with the trainers all the time, and it's over. You know, the thing about the Lakers with Timofey Mozgov and Luol Deng, it was salt in the wound where those were bad signings, but the average case was pretty bad, but you got left of the curve.
Those are atrocious. Jimmy Buss forced Mitch Kupchak to do those signings because he had promised that the Lakers would make the playoffs. Somehow he thought that getting those guys in would help them make the playoffs. He was obviously wrong, and I am glad that he is out and has no power over the Lakers anymore.
Well, I will say this. I'm just reviewing the end of the Lakers season. They've got some tough ones, but to do over-under on 35, they just need to do eight more wins technically, which is entirely within the realm of possibility. They've got some tough games in there, but they got some easy ones. They play Orlando, they play Dallas. I believe they might have one more against Phoenix. So it'll be close, but, you know, candidly, I think if Lonzo Ball missing
22 games
at least, you know, it's entirely possible. Yep. They rest on back-to-backs or whatever, and losing Julius Randle, I think, you know, the Lakers did fine. They basically
Larry Nance Jr. Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, I would feel certain about their making it if they still had Larry Nance Jr. But I do, even though it hurt, I think it was an acceptable sacrifice for the possibility of, again, wait for it, LeBron James and DeAndre Jordan.
It is also a funny one where, like I said, the exact same thing happened. Although, admittedly, they won, right, when they traded for Brook Lopez, where they took back a bad contract but managed to luck out. It's like there are trades that I'm okay with where it is. I think they overpaid, but the concept of I'm going to get rid of a bad player. And in doing so, I might have to give up something, but it's worth it because I improve, you know, addition by subtraction. They definitely did that. And this team is in a great. I think I'm going to have to write that article up, Chris, of just how good the Lakers look next season as a landing spot, because it is very rare that you have a team where, if we talk like the Arturo's playoff rotation, that's top 6, where you have a top 6 where basically you can point to people and say, if I just plug you 2 players in, we're done, we're set. And they're versatile enough. That's the fantastic thing about the Lakers. They're filled with long, you know, the Phil Jackson point with the Bulls for the second three-peat. You have these long, big guards. It's great. It's such, you know, more teams don't do that. They try and go for the 7-footer. No, the real trick is you go for the super tall wingspan, ultra mobile guard. So I think we're feeling great. We didn't talk the Warriors like at all, Brian. So you want to get one last word in, and we'll do shout-outs.
Oh, the Warriors have plenty of people talking about them. They don't need any more attention, I think. I just enjoy watching their games.
All right. Well,
here's to the Warriors finally having Jordan Bell starting and seeing the end of the Zaza Pachulia JaVale McGee era.
We'll see. Has that been announced? Because McGee has
no.
starting,
I'm saying that eventually it's got to happen.
I'm a big McGee fan, so I'm glad to see him back in the starting lineup. That's my Warriors update. They've been playing really well with McGee.
All right, as mentioned,
I love Jordan Bell.
Chris Yeh on Twitter as Chris Yeh. If you just Google The Alliance, you will certainly find, I think, most of the sites you want people to hit first. If you haven't read The Alliance, you should definitely check it out. As mentioned, it's a book on management, particularly in Silicon Valley, but I think it has many applications and oddly plugs right into sports. I think many sports teams would benefit from reading it.
It mentions the Spurs.
That's excellent. Yeah, that is true. And I was going to ask, do you want to plug anything else preemptively, or do you want to wait?
So I'll just mention that coming soon to Amazon and other bookstores near you, the next book, Blitzscaling, will be out October 9th, and it should be available for pre-order soon. And if not, you can always go to blitzscaling.com and sign up to be notified.
Excellent. All right, well, that's been our show. If you found us not through the website, you can find us at boxscoregeeks.com. You can subscribe, upvote on iTunes and Stitcher. It really helps us out. We go live every week, twitch.tv/Nerd Numbers. And if you miss the live show, you can catch the recap on channel Nerd Numbers on YouTube. Additionally, as mentioned, I've just started blogging at nerdnumbers.com. It's just such an easier platform because it's got WordPress underneath. That is, as mentioned, 100% the reason to do it. But that's where the show notes for this show will go up, and possibly an article about how the Lakers are finally, not with the bullshit, we're tanking, so we're going to have a couple draft picks in a few years that are good LeBron James. No, legitimately, the Lakers have to be the premier destination for any player looking for a max. I can't think of a better destination that isn't already filled, right? There's no room left on Houston. There's no room left on Golden State.
There will be.
They're going after Anthony Davis.
There will be a max salary slot available for the 76ers.
Okay, so that's a fascinating. I think
that's why the Sixers. That's why the Sixers brought in Redick and Amir Johnson on those ridiculously large one-year deals. That was so that they could have the salary slot in this offseason for one max player. I'm
going to have to look at the two, because I think we are still, for all the love people are giving him, we're still skeptical on Embiid, and the biggest part is just consistency and injury.
The great availability is the greatest ability.
Well, there's that. And it's also just, I think, Lonzo Ball's in the same boat, trying to keep us going just a little overtime. But it's like we expect him to improve, but he's still inconsistent. He still had some bad shooting games. He still has some polish. And I think it's just important to realize that Embiid is still in that position, right? Anthony Davis is an MVP caliber player, but he is years past his rookie season. He is all of the rust is off. He has been polished. Embiid, I'm sorry for all the love, is still not a fully polished NBA player, and
which is good. Which is a good thing for anybody who or any team that has him.
If he can, I mean, I'm still. It's the health is 100% the question. Is he going to be able to stay healthy long enough to turn into the player that they are paying him to be? But we'll see.
Well, as you know, the NBA history of extremely tall 7-footers with a history of injuries is so good.
Shaq's like the only one, right, that's really been able to.
Shaq wasn't, right? Like Shaq.
He played a ton of minutes though in the NBA.
But I was going to say, even with him, and that Shaq is on. Lakers Shaq is honestly the best case scenario. And I remember you're going to need good coaching, and I questioned coaching in front office. Phil Jackson acknowledged. He said, "My goal with Shaq is to make it to the postseason with favorable conditions." So basically, in a few of his autobiographies I read of his, he basically said, my goal with Shaq was 50 to 60 games in the regular season and healthy by the postseason. Now, the 76ers could do the same plan with Joel Embiid, which is the right plan. But this is the team that we've seen have issues with injury multiple times now and questionable. Markelle Fultz's agents are basically feuding with the team saying, we're not going to listen to your doctors. So the 76ers might have an asset like Shaq if they use him like Shaq. But I question if they will. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right. Anyway, that was overtime. That's been our show. You can catch us next week. And thanks so much again for Chris Yeh for being on the show.
Always a pleasure, guys.
All right, we're out.